Hi everybody, this video is going to show you how to find secondary sources in both Lexis and Westlaw. Let's start with Lexis. Here in the main splash page, the portal for law schools, we have a quick search that we can take advantage of, and we're going to put in our terms. We're searching First Amendment, freedom of speech, student, substantial disruption, and protest. And we're going to click on the search button, and we're going to get 777 results. And this is all grouped together. So you have treatises and law reviews and everything included there. And so let's try and parse this out a bit. Best way to do that is through the category filter on the left-hand side. And we see that there are 3 different categories that we can choose from: law reviews and journals, treatises, and jurisprudence. Let's take a look at the treatises first. There are only 16, and there are some, I think, helpful treatises here. So as you remember, a treatise is a book or a multi-set of books that talk about an area of law in depth. And so the one here that is first on the mark is Education Law by Rapp. And we're looking at section 9.04, rules affected by the First and 14th Amendments. So if we take a look at that particular item, we'll get the full text of that section. And it will provide us with some general information and then go into some further depth. You can also take a look at the table of contents over on the left-hand side. This tab either shrinks or expands depending on the toggle that you choose. And there are some other sections within this chapter that may be relevant to your interests. You can also click on the full table of contents to look at other chapters. If you want to know more about education law, click on the publication information, which is the I, which will provide you with coverage, who the publisher is, a description of the title, etc. And what we want to do now is go back. We'll hit our back button to get back to that portion of education law. And then we're going to click on our results list. So the next thing we would want to do is change our filter from treatises to jurisprudence. Jurisprudence includes titles like American Law Reports. American Law Reports, if you remember from the introductory video, are annotations that are somewhere between a law review article and a case reporter that talk about a very narrow area of law. They can be very helpful, providing you with context and primary sources. So there are many to choose from. The one that that caught my eye was the oral statement, students' oral statements here. And just as an example, it will provide you with context and analysis, highlighting primary sources, etc. Westlaw actually publishes ALR and licenses it to Lexis. So when we look at Westlaw, I wanted to look at ALR a little bit more in depth because I think their version is better. Well, let's go back to our results list. And we're going to go back to our category. We're going to uncheck our jurisprudence and take a look at our law reviews and journals. Now, there are 748 of them. this can be a challenge in trying to sift through all of the items that are helpful. Here are some things that you might want to consider. Law reviews are essentially a snapshot in time, so try not to rely upon one that is too old. Things happen, cases are overturned, new statutes are introduced, etc. There also is, if you look at your results list here, a lot on online speech or cyberbullying, cyberspace, etc. And our scenario doesn't really include online speech. So one thing that you can do is search within the results. And what I did was use the term but not, and then I did parentheses, online or cyber or social for social media. I also didn't want to include sports. This was not really a sports issue. It was more political. It was around lunchtime, not on the sports field. So if we click on our search terms, it will show us our filters, and it has limited from the 700 and so to 33. So a little bit more reasonable. And you can always play around with it and take that filter off and try another filter and see what comes up from there. So that's how that works for Lexis. What I wanted to show you next was on Westlaw. So we're going to Westlaw. We're going to Westlaw Edge. And we're going to use the Go bar, that same big search bar in the front. And we're going to paste our search in there and hit the advanced, hit the search button. And here we have 454 secondary sources. Again, we can limit or filter our search. What I really wanted to do is show you the different types that are available to you. So there are ALR, there are law reviews, there are newspapers, text and treatises, etc. I wanted to really show you the ALR because I think it's a better product in Westlaw than I do in Lexis. And please note that Lexis and Westlaw have different content. They license different content from different publishers, so what's in one may not be in another. It's always wise to check both. So here we have our same ALR article that came up, the oral statement of students and what is sufficiently disruptive. I find this a little easier to use. Let me just go back up to the top. It's the same article. The format is a little easier to use. So we have our article outline, our table of cases, and our research references. Here is our table of cases. We saw this kind of before, but it's a little easier to navigate. It's not quite so hidden. We have the text of our annotation. And actually, let's go back up to the top because we can look at our table of cases. We can look at our research references. So this will allow you to identify other ALRs that are out there, as well as legal encyclopedia citations and treatises and practice aids. You can also locate authority by jurisdiction. So say you were just looking at, you were just looking at Supreme Court materials. You could just check that out and hit apply, and it will identify the Supreme Court cases that this article is talking about. There may be other Supreme Court cases. Again, this is the items or the cases that are included in this particular ALR article. are up to both the editor and the author of the article. So just pay attention. If it is not in ALR, does not mean that it is not a major case. It just may not have been included in the one that you're looking at. So let's go back to our results list, and you just hit that back button within Westlaw. And you can take a look at your filters. We're going to uncheck our ALR. And I wanted to look at our text and treatises. So there are a couple different text and treatises here. Something called Education Law, First Amendment Due Process, and Discrimination Litigation is the first item that comes up in this result. Restrictions on appearance, students' free speech and First Amendment rights, talking about social media. So there are a whole bunch of different aspects to freedom of speech within schools that you'll need to kind of filter through. And you can do it using these filters. And sometimes you just have to look through it and determine. So if you have any questions as to how to locate secondary sources using Lexis and Westlaw for this particular assignment, please let me know. Thanks.